Good morning, friends. My name is Patrick Honeycutt. I am Associate Pastor at Westminster Presbyterian Church and glad to be with you today. It has been quite a week of devotionals in this space, and I hope to build upon and allude to the contributions of my wonderful colleagues in the Thursday edition of this devotional. Please excuse the less than professional camera work here, which I'll explain or will be evident here in a second. But I want to start with Whitney's devotion, where she reminded us what it is so easy for us to forget, and that is it would be a travesty, a sham, a mockery, yes, maybe even a Travisham mockery for us to forget who we are, and that is that we are not God, for us to claim what is only God's to possess. And her devotion brought to mind for me a passage that has been another one of my favorites that I hope will be the guiding frame for this devotion today. It is from Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. And the wisdom in that verse is that we are to trust in the Lord with all of our heart and to lean not on our own insight or understanding. We are to acknowledge God in all of our ways, and God will make straight our paths. This passage was gifted to me by the writer and through the church and tradition, et cetera, but more personally to me through my grandmother named Marqueen, who inscribed an encouragement in a Bible she gave me to remember and hold fast to this verse. I believe that that gift to me can be a gift to us in this season. As we enter into a particularly, I think, hard period of time in this pandemic where we are being asked as a nation and as many communities like the church to begin thinking about what's next and to make a myriad of hard decisions. And no matter your perspective or your position, I think we can all agree that we make these decisions without full information, that we are making decisions not free from risk, from uncertainty, from vulnerability. So this is all the more reason, I think, to hold fast to this passage and have it in mind, and to not rely on our own insights, but yield to a deeper trust in the larger story and wisdom of God. This passage is not making a false distinction between analysis and thinking and faith, as though when we are confronted with a hard decision, we are to throw up our hands and say, let go and let God, and it'll all work out, and sort of take ourselves out of the process. Instead, I think that this passage calls us to a faithful analysis. And faithful analysis is grounded in the humility of knowing that we do not know it all, that we are not God, that our insight and understanding is not worthy of our full reliance. Now, my family and I are endeavoring in this quarantine time to do a puzzle, and we're not puzzle people per se. We have friends who are, but we aren't. But we've kind of gone pretty ambitious, and I've got a piece from that puzzle here. This is 1 out of 2,000 pieces of a puzzle that I'm going to try to show you now. There it is. You can see we've got a lot of work to do. We've got some groupings, we've got a few beginnings here, but this one piece represents a very small part of the whole. And this is what it's going to look like when we are done. And I think, how do you come back to me? There we go. I think that it's a metaphor that's guiding me in this time that, yes, my peace, my insight, my understanding, my wisdom is an important part of the puzzle. We know that if I finish this or we get to the very end and there's one piece missing, how mad we're going to be. Reminds me of the way that Jesus tells the parable of the shepherd who worries really about that one sheep out of the 100 that goes away, goes astray, and how glad he is to find that one sheep. This one piece of the puzzle matters greatly, but it's not the whole. And there is more to the story, to the tableau, than just one person's thoughts. perspectives, and positions. Our video conferencing platforms we've been using so much lately have something called gallery view. So we can see not just the person who's speaking, but the full array of participants. As we make decisions in this time, I think we need gallery hearing as well, where we hear the voices of not just the loudest one or ourselves, but everyone, or as many as we can. I've been watching and enjoying the awesome YouTube videos. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend them, by John Krasinski, called Some Good News, where he shares inspiring stories of generosity and gratitude and courage being displayed by people in this time. These are the kinds of stories and wisdom that we need to hear, to rely upon. But they're not the full range of the story either. That as much of the some good news that we ought to hold on to, there's also stories like the one of the prestigious ER doctor from New York Presbyterian, who, after spending weeks and weeks trying to save lives in a very tense and horrible environment, succumbed to her own illness and took her own life. We need to remember the stories of this awful headline that I read last night right before I went to bed. Coronavirus kills its first federal inmate weeks after she had an emergency C-section. As we make decisions, we need the insights and the wisdom from all of these places. As hard as they are to hear, these stories and insights are part of the puzzle, and they offer a road to hope. In my reading this week, I came across a video, apparently it's a viral video, a TED Talk by the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And she talks about the single story and how we need to broaden our scope when we encounter someone. And she says, when we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place or time or person, we regain a kind of paradise. When we reject the single story and accept the multiple gallery view, we regain a kind of paradise. This affirms what the author of Proverbs says immediately after Marqueen's message, or the gift of the passage that I shared earlier. Proverbs says in the verse following that we are not to be wise in our own eyes, for it will be healing for our flesh and a refreshment for our bodies, a kind of paradise. In the church, we can call that paradise salvation. Friends, we approach that salvation when we abandon self-reliance and practice the humility that leads to faithful listening and analysis. When we listen as much as we talk, when we ask as much as we answer, when we admit that we do not know, so that we may admit the knowledge of those who can inform our puzzling decisions. Now, so far I've referenced Whitney, but I need to get to Larry now. Yesterday, if you didn't see it, Larry blew our minds and had us all playing air guitar as he referenced the 80s hit Jukebox Hero by that wonderful band, Foreigner. And I thought, how do I follow that? But I had to try, you know me. And I think about a choice that we have in this day and in this time. A choice on one side that is articulated by another 80s band, Whitesnake, whose song Here I Go Again appeared on an album, interestingly, called Saints and Sinners in 1982. And that song goes a little like this. Cover your ears. Here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone. And I made up my mind. I ain't wasting all my time. Here I go again. Okay, that was the first choice, going it on your own. But there's another one, also articulated by a band about journeying. A band whose lyrics and songs in our minds go on and on and on and on. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. Yeah, don't stop believing. Ooh. Oh, I'll stop singing. But don't stop believing. Don't stop believing. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways, acknowledge God, and God will make straight our paths in all the crooked and puzzling choices that we must make in the days ahead. And now to close with the unforgettable, memorable words of my other colleague, Jacob Bolden, I say this: fast much, hold love. Wait, that's not it. What is it? Oh, I got it. Hold much, fast love. That sounds a little inappropriate. Let me try one more time. Love hold much fast. Maybe I should stop this travesty and sham and mockery and listen to others, like Jacob, who says, much love, hold fast. Grace and peace to you. Amen.